Hi, Trevor. Thank you so much for submitting your poem this week. It was really exciting to see that you were willing to try out a new genre, and it was really cool to read this poem and hear you share a little more about where you're from. I think poetry is a really cool genre because it definitely can help your writing to become more personal and help you as a writer to share something that is a little more personal. So thank you for taking that risk this week in your writing and sharing what you did about how you grew up and your family. The first thing I wanted to say was that it was really clear throughout your poem that you had a theme of family happening, and I liked how throughout your poem you not only mention specific people in your family and memories you have that have to do with your family, but also you add in some metaphors about being from roots. And I thought that for me as a reader, it was really helpful to see those metaphors, and I could really clearly make a connection between you talking about having strong roots to you meant talking about your family, and I thought that those parts of the poem connected very well. One thing I wanted to have you think about this week is just your word choice throughout the poem. When you're writing in the poetry genre, word choice is especially important because usually in this genre you are trying to include as much meaning as possible in as few words as possible. So if we're thinking in that way, then every word you include is or should be meaningful to the purpose of your poem in some way. So one word that kind of stuck out to me was when you used abyss in the sentence. I am from roots digging deep into the soil abyss. So the reason that word stuck out to me is up until that point, your poem seems to have a pretty positive spin, just talking about the strong roots you have with your family. And then when I saw that word in there, that word typically, I looked at the definition, has more of a negative connotation, meaning something similar to a bottomless pit. So I wasn't sure if that was the meaning you were trying to convey through your poem, or if it was not, is there possibly another word choice that you could use there to show that the strong family roots really go deep into the ground without having a negative connotation, if that's not what you meant to have there. And so just thinking about word choice and making sure that the words you're choosing to use are giving the meaning that you want them to have for the overall meaning of what you want your poem to convey. So I would just consider, especially with that word choice, thinking about was that the meaning you meant to include there, or is there another word that could more closely align with the meaning you're trying to convey throughout the poem as a whole. One other thing I noticed, I thought you did a nice job of including specific mentions of your family members, and I thought you did a really nice job of bringing your poem together at the end in a strong way when you said, I am from a past and present that brings strength, faith, and family, because making that statement, I felt like really summed up many of the examples you gave throughout your poem, mentioning your grandma's baking, your dad's joke telling, Todd and Charity, as well as the metaphors you're giving earlier that have to do with the plants and the strong roots, and as well as when you discuss the Holy Book, and as well as the manger scene. So I thought that you really summed up many of those examples and elements in a strong way there. Other thing I wanted to have you consider is I just was noticing your examples about talking about being from Syracuse and Wales, simple spaghetti and tasty apple pie. I was kind of curious how you decided to plan out which examples would make the cut to be included in your poem and versus ones you decided maybe weren't good ones to use for your poem. And I would just have you think about, as you look back through your poem, are all of the examples you're giving the strongest examples you could possibly give to convey the overall message you want this poem to have, or the purpose of this poem. And the Syracuse and Wales and simple spaghetti and tasty apple pie example stuck out to me because it was that example, when I read it as the reader, it was a little harder for me to make the connection between what that example has to do with how your family has impacted you and grown you in your strength, faith, and in your closeness to your family. So if you do think that's still important to include, I would just think about, is there a way somewhere else in the poem where we could make that connection between those examples and your overall meaning. So I think you did a really wonderful job trying out this genre. Keep up the great work. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments as you go back through and edit. Again, I would just, your quick suggestions, look at the word choice you're using throughout. Just make sure that the words you're choosing in different areas are conveying the meanings you want them to, and also that you're giving the strongest examples that you can give to add to the overall message you want your poem to convey. I also included a link to one of the lesson videos that is in the Google Classroom that has to do with word choice and getting to the bottom of what you might really want to say as a writer as you're writing in the poetry genre. So if you haven't seen that video already, that would also be a great one to check out this week as you consider what to revise for next week. So thanks so much for your hard work, and I will look forward to reading your revisions next week. Have a great week. Bye.